The other night I almost stepped on a snake when I was out there in the dark. So.
Oh no! Well, we have snakes in the backyard. We're in a pretty rural area, even though we're only a few minutes outside of Louisville. So we've got snakes in the backyard. We had a deer in our backyard last week.
Yeah, we have deer because they ate all of our hostas when we were on vacation. We had all these great, beautiful
They'll do that.
We went on our cruise and came back, and all the hostas were gone because all the deer ate them.
Oh, no.
We're kind of in the suburb, but we live about probably 2 miles from the Missouri River.
Uh-huh.
So we have a lot of deer, but we have a lake right behind our house, and so we have snakes and frogs and turtles and all that stuff.
Oh, that sounds fun. Here, I'm going to take off these glasses because I've got a glare.
I do too, but I can't. Man, I am blind as a bat. If I do, be like, I won't be able to read anything or see.
I
anything.
understand. These are just readers, so yeah. Well, might as well.
Hello, everybody, and let's see, what do we got here? We got Jen over on Instagram. Benny5357, you gotta let me know how you pronounce your handle because you're always tuned in, and I appreciate that, but I got to make sure I pronounce your name right. I feel terrible. And R. Kellenberger, hello. All right, so we are getting ready to talk a little cruising, a little Pop Century, a little Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, all kinds of stuff. If you look closely to our screen, those folks that are tuned in here, well, everybody right at this point will be tuned into the video. You can see bats in the background. If you look super closely, I paid $14 for that effect. That's where your Patreon money goes, right there. I used Patreon money for all these new themes, so we can make it like during Halloween season. We can make it look really cool. Like this is like the
I know, great.
You can make a spider come down like wherever Justin's head there. I mean, it'll bother him the whole.
That's awesome. No,
and they'll just keep bills, or you could just make him hang out and stay there and just dangle right over his Castaway Key hat. I mean, it's kind of rude, but I did that to Ricky all night last night, so I don't care. You know, it's Ricky.
That's awesome.
Okay, Bean. Okay, good. Thank you, Bean. There. So it's Bean 5357. All right, good. See, now I feel better because I used to substitute for a gentleman named Mr. Benny, and it was pronounced the same. And I went to high school with his 2 daughters. And I used to have a sub for him every year because he ran the Boston Marathon. So I'd sub on Monday. So we can do this. Boop. Happy Halloween. I'm saving that big old bright thing for Halloween. That's aggressive. All right, go back to the bats.
Well worth the money.
Yeah. I figured for $14, man. It's like a sucker. I had to buy it. All right, we'll leave that as a little spider tonight. Why not? The spider can hang out with us for a little while.
Yeah.
Bean, I've been 535. I taught 6th grade for 17 years. I've been called a lot worse too. Trust me on that. All right, so it's gonna be Monday's show. We are gonna talk a little cruising. Oh, what was that? Discord. Let's see here. All right. The phone is on Do Not Disturb.
Oh yeah, I better make sure my phone's on Do Not Disturb too. Yep.
Good over there. Wait, somebody. Oh, wait on that. We're good. All right, so I think they're good to go. So this is 2560. All right, let's get cracking. Welcome to episode 2560 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. And as always, welcome to the next work week. You know, it's part of the grind, but we try to make it a little bit better by taking you on a virtual trip to your favorite place, whether it's Walt Disney World, Disneyland. Sometimes we take you out to sea. Today, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It's a little Meatloaf reference to start your week. That's what we're doing. We're taking you to Walt Disney World, and we're taking you on a virtual cruise on the Disney Wish today. And to do that, we have a very special guest. We're heading down to the outskirts of Louisville, Kentucky with our good friend Justin, who, if you tuned into the video, has a spider virtual spider hanging right over his head right now. So again, check it out over at youtube.com/BeOurGuestPodcast. I paid a few dollars for that little effect, and I want you to see it. Justin, how's it going down in Kentucky today? What's up?
It's going great, Mike. I've been looking forward to this for 9 months. How are you?
I am great, and I'm glad that you could make it on and we could have this conversation. And always wanted to visit Louisville. I know we have friends down that way. Craig, one of our great lizard friends, and he's actually, I think he just got back from sailing on the Disney Wonder to Alaska himself, him and his wife, Celinda. And so tell our listeners about Louisville. I know that you can tour the Bat Factory. That's one of your most famous things to do down there. Bourbon is a big thing.
Yes.
But,
yeah. Bourbon. Horses. I live in Simpsonville, Kentucky, so we're surrounded by horse farms out here. The big thing, I guess, the Derby. We have in tangential to the Derby, we have something called Thunder Over Louisville to kick off the Derby season, which is, I believe, the biggest fireworks show in the country.
I've heard that.
So yeah, it's a pretty big event. And more recently, and just to make you jealous, we have 3 Publix that have opened, one about 25 minutes from my house. So I can just go right down the street here and grab a pub sub if I want.
See, everything's kind of creeping, but they haven't made it into Missouri, like Publix hasn't made it to Missouri. We have a Buc-ee's now, but it's in Southwest Missouri. It's down in Springfield. So it's 3 and change away from 3 hours and change from me. So things are getting closer. We had a Zaxby's in Columbia closed, which is 2 hours away. So now I don't have a Zaxby's.
Oh, no.
I know. I went to Mizzou football game, all excited, abandoned. My Zaxby's right there. I know it's all the things out. We don't have a Bojangles, anything like that. I mean, all the good stuff down there. So
I have all of that within 20 minutes of my house.
I live in the I love Missouri, but we're missing some of the good stuff. I'm just saying, it's a hardship. But anyway, let's talk some Disney. So give me your backstory with your Disney fandom. So how did it start for you? Are you like growing up in a Disney family, or did you just kind of fall into it? How did it all get going for you?
Well, so it all starts with the Disney Channel. Back when I was, 5 or 6, and one of my first memories is watching Mousercise as a kid. Ever since then, I watched the movies. I watched Disney TV, Disney Channel back as a kid, but we never really got to go to Disneyland, and that changed in the 90s when I went with my family. And then we didn't go back for a long time. The first time that I had been back was with my wife on our honeymoon two years ago now. We went in November of 2022 for our honeymoon. And then right after we got back from the honeymoon, we had a trip booked for April of 2023 booked. And then right after we got back from the April 2023 trip, we booked this trip that we're talking about tonight. So we've gone from 0 to 150 in the span of 2 years, and on Saturday we're going to book another cruise, I think. So it's just zero to fandom in like 2 years, and I've just been always really fascinated with Disney history. So listening to your podcast and other podcasts and reading books and stuff. So that's just the basis of my fandom right there. It's movies, it's TV shows, it's podcasts like this that have really stoked the fires of my fandom.
I love hearing that, because it would similar for me. When you get down there, though, what is it about the theme parks, resorts, Walt Disney World in general? But we'll talk cruise here because that's going to be the majority of the show. But for me, it's, and I've said this many times on the show, it's like the infrastructure. It's the 365, 24/7-ness of Walt Disney World, that there's constantly arrivals happening. There's constantly departures happening. There's constantly first timers. It's just a never ending cycle at Walt Disney World. It's always in flux, like while you have your micro trip happening, in isolation, that's what you're focused on, is your trip. That's always constantly unfolding, and it's always, developing ever since 71. It is just, it's an evolution of a location. And, the laundry's constantly been getting done since 71. Think about it, beds being made and, meals being prepared, and just different cast members, of generations of cast members being trained. And it's amazing when you think about how that happens. I like the infrastructure, the story of how just everything has happened in constant flow since 71. What is it for you? Is it something else? What draws you to a destination like Walt Disney World?
It's just one of those places where everybody, for the most part, is having the best day ever, you know?
Point.
In a time when, you know, we're just really stressed out all the time, it's good to go down to a place and just seeing nothing but smiling faces for the most part. But also it's the infrastructure, it's the history. I love all of that stuff. And that just is what brings us down again and again and again.
Cool.
We love it.
And that's a great point though, because I mean, it's, you know, what they call Disneyland the happiest place on earth, Walt Disney World the most magical place on earth, and it is. I mean, people go there to have a good time. You see people are stressed out. I've been stressed out there. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it can give you your happiest moments and your most stressful, but for the most part, it's a wonderful place to be. So let's talk about this trip we're going to talk about from just a couple of weeks ago. I love that we have a very recent trip to get after. How did this one come together? Because it was your first Disney cruise, and of course, you did a little parks time and Walt Disney World time before and after. Yeah. But what made you decide to check out the ships to go on the Disney Wish?
So we actually, well, the discussion happened on the plane ride back from our April 2022 trip. And we sat down after that trip and we said, okay, basically what's next? Do we want to go on the beach? Do we want to go to a foreign country? Do we want to go to Disneyland? And we very quickly settled on a cruise, not necessarily a Disney cruise, but a cruise to hit two of those three things we were talking about. When we decided to look into it, we looked at a bunch of different cruise lines and we realized that Disney gives you the most bang for your dollar when you really break it down to the cost per person per day. And for my wife and I, we are double income. We're no kids. We're very fortunate enough to be able to do stuff like this. And we realize that, you know, there's families and stuff that will pay more than us, but for us, the cost per person per day was just too good to pass up. Plus, we get to go see places we've never seen before. We get to go to the beach, and we just get to have that level of Disney service that, you know, we love.
So I love the way you're saying that too. And I want to get your perspective because, you know, Disney's typically thought of as like, okay, if you're going to go on a Disney cruise, it's typically for families, right? But I mean, it is a huge honeymoon destination, Disney Cruise Line, because again, this is what I do for a living. I book a lot of folks who go on Disney cruises as a honeymoon. And you might not think that when I tell people that are not, you know, listeners of our podcast who are not in the Disney fandom, you know, at a Friday night football game, you know, parents of the cheerleading. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I booked a honeymoon for a couple and they're going on a Disney cruise. They're like, they're going on a Disney cruise. Like that's, you know, it's all kids. I'm like, no. You don't understand. Like there's an adult area at night. There's an adult only section that has awesome layout chairs and pools. And I'm like, you don't have to see kids if you don't want to. I mean, you will see them in the dining room, but I mean, there's adult only restaurants that are just the jam. I'm like, you have to experience it. But for the general public, I don't think they understand that you can have an awesome adult vacation on a Disney Cruise Line ship, which I'm going to ask you about that in a little bit, but I'm glad we have this perspective today. So let's talk through this. So it was your first experience booking a Disney cruise, planning for it. Talk to us about the pre-planning. What was there anything that kind of surprised you? Was there anything that was, because you've done Walt Disney World now, was there anything that was harder, easier when it came to planning a cruise with Disney Cruise Line as opposed to Walt Disney World? Because you do have to kind of think about, like, you do have to make sure you have like legal names, a documentation, citizenship, because they will not let you on that ship if you don't have a passport or a, you know, correct birth certificate, stuff like that. I mean, there are things to think about.
Right. Well, as a hyper planner, and I've just like, that's what I do basically. It was way easier because most of the trip is planned out for you, aside from getting the passports and stuff, which we did pretty much as soon as we booked the cruise 18 months ago. But it was much easier because there wasn't all of this stuff to think about. Like I wasn't making spreadsheets all the time with different options and, you know, hotel options, restaurant options, all that stuff. All of that was planned for us. And that was actually kind of a relief.
I was
So
gonna
it was
ask,
much easier.
for some people though, like you, that are hyper planners, I wonder if that's frustrating, because some people, I think, get a huge kick out of that, right? They get the enjoyment out of, oh man, I love making 72 ADRs. It's 60 days and then going back and canceling, 32% of them and modifying 67% of them. And, because it's like the game we play, it makes the experience more rich, and it makes it,
Right.
seem like it lasts longer.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I had a guest, Connie. Shout out to Connie. She's out at Disneyland right now as we're recording this. She sent her daughter's spreadsheet to me a couple nights ago before recording this show. She goes, Mike, I need you to see this spreadsheet my daughter made for our Disneyland trip. Whew. I mean, NASA does not have spreadsheets this detailed for a rover mission on Mars, but it's what her daughter, like, it was a thing of beauty. Like, I got to hit the, I hit this. I mean, for a planner, my sister-in-law works for she's a corporate accountant. She saw this thing, and I mean, heaven's gates would have opened when she saw this thing, because it was color coded. It had timestamps. I mean, it had.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I mean, it was beautiful. But I mean, there's all kinds, right? I go without ADRs.
Right.
Like, I don't have flights for marathon weekend. I don't have flights for Disneyland. I don't have anything planned. Like, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I do it for everybody else all day. But it was like perfect. And what it is, like, it gave her the experience before she went out. It made her trip richer. And I think for some people with cruises, I've heard this from many people that are big world fans. Like, they're always emailing me like, Mike, should I be doing something right now? Like, I can almost see them through the email. They're like shaking, like, what should I be doing? I'm like, really nothing at this point, because there's not a whole lot to do. That's a great thing about cruising. You pretty much just, they'll tell you what your meals are, and the show before or after the meal, and there's not a whole lot. It's just you get on the board and it's fun. There's not a whole lot to plan.
Right. And and I mean, like, that's what I did for the first couple of weeks. I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, I don't have anything to do. And then after I got used to that feeling of like, well, everything's gonna be done for me, then I got used to it, and I actually enjoyed the fact that all of that was off my shoulders, and it took away that pressure, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's what I like, because I just like easy, like a cruise really is kind of hitting the easy button, as Staples used to say. I mean,
it really is.
You just get to the point where, you pay your money, and then you get to the check-in day where it's based on your castaway level, which, depending on how many cruises you've taken before. And then that day you just kind of go day by day and decide, you build basically like a personal itinerary. What do I want to do on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4? And you select from whatever's still available. Do I want to do, do I want to rent bicycles on Castaway Key? Okay, well, if it's available, I select it. Do I want a cabana? Well, those are never available for anybody. I'm platinum. I never get them. But if they are, maybe I do. They're too expensive. I don't get them anyway. But, some people want them. And you just build it. Do I want to go and try a martini tasting, or do I want to go get a spa appointment and get a, whatever? But you just build your personal itinerary, but that's it. And that's a ton of fun, because it's really, you do that one time, and then you can go back and modify it, of course, from 75 days out or 105 days out, however many days. But you can always go back and tweak your plan there. But that's basically building your cruise with kind of like your main skeletal system. And then when you get on the ship, you kind of flesh it out with all the stuff like bingo and towel folding and, the diaper dash and all the good stuff that I really enjoy, the trivias and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
It's not like cruising. It's so laid back. It really is.
It was the most relaxing 4 or 5 days that I've had in years. And same thing for my wife. It was just wonderful. But
so let's jump in here, because I want to make sure we get all this. So let's talk cruising, then we'll kind of talk about the Pop Century and all that other stuff after we get to the meat of the cruise. So how did you guys get from Walt Disney World over to the ship, and what was your embarkation process like, getting on the ship?
So embarkation day was a breeze. We actually took the DCL transfer bus. As first-time cruisers, we knew that when we checked in, we would not get an early boarding time. So I had heard on this podcast and others that if you do the DCL transfer bus, you could be on the ship sooner than you would be otherwise. So we took that chance. We rolled the dice on that. and the bus picked us up from the Grand Destino Hotel where we stayed before, over at Coronado, about 9:45. We went to Port Orleans Riverside, stayed there for about 5 minutes, picked more people up. We were at the port by 10:30, 10:40. We got handed this pink slip of paper, which I still don't know why we got handed the pink slip of paper, but we did, and told to show it to someone upstairs. So we did that, went through security, breeze, very easy, go up those escalators and those stairs. And then we were ushered over to one side of the terminal where there was like a check-in station, and they checked our passports and they printed off our little boarding QR codes. And we waited, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes maybe. And we were boarding group 5, and they started boarding, and, every 20 seconds or so, the boarding groups got, added on. And I mean, we were on the ship by like 11 a.m. and having chicken tenders by 11:10.
Oh my God, that's a win. That's such a win.
It was amazing.
You're beating the crowds and you're getting chicken tenders in your belly before noon. That is a huge win. Oh,
yes, it was great. But yeah, it was just so much easier than anything that I could have anticipated. Just a breeze. So
that's a good tip. So let me ask you about and let me tell you, that bus driver had the pedal to the metal, by the way.
He sure did.
He wasn't messing around.
There was no traffic.
That guy had the Miami Vice theme playing in his earpods. He's like, right? Like messing around, Spy Hunter or something. Okay, so
Spy Hunter.
So I love Precious. Again, Scott and I talk about this all the time. So many times in Pan Forester too, like, you only get one shot at a first experience of anything. Like, I wish I could go back to first experience of Magic Kingdom. Like, I got to do Disneyland for the first time in 22, and it was so awesome because I'd never been there. It was so great. And I keep raving about it every chance I get on this podcast still. But it was your first time getting to Port Canaveral and getting on a Disney Cruise Line ship. So, you'd seen all the videos, heard us talk about it forever. Tell us about it. What did you think? I mean, was it bigger, smaller? Tell us about your first impressions of getting on the ship.
I was not prepared for getting on the ship. I thought I would be. Seeing the ship, just like, even like going across that bridge, the bridge, we were just like, oh my gosh, like, that's it. And it's way bigger than I thought it would be, even from there. And when we got to the port and actually saw it, we were just, just kind of in awe, because this thing was just a gigantic floating city. And so when we get into and on the ship, and the first thing that you see is that grand atrium, grand hall with the staircase and everything. And there's like Cinderella up top on the balcony, and someone doing the little thing on the stage with the wishing wands. We're just like, this is what we've been missing out on. It was very, very awe-inspiring. Like, I know that's a weird way to put it, but it was like, this is a gigantic floating city that we're on right now. And just thinking about like what everything, like all of the people that built this and like how this ship was put together, I was just thinking about that in the back of my mind. Like, how could they do this? This is a miracle, kind of.
And the sucker has to float. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Nobody thinks about that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
It is. I mean, it is like, these things are gigantic, huge. And I mean, like the Royal Caribbean has ships that are almost twice as big as the Wish. I've been on one of those. Pam goes on them all the time. And I can't even imagine. Like, I mean, because those things are, I just got back from the Fantasy 7-night cruise to the Eastern Caribbean. And like, again, I just did a Mike in the Midwest last week about, have we lost our sense of wonder? Do we think enough about how awesome things, we take so much for granted nowadays? And like, for 7 days, I lived on that ship, and like, right in the middle of the Caribbean. And like, I never stopped very often to think, man, we are floating on a bunch of steel that weighs like 190,000 tons. Like, we're floating, like, and there's like 4,000 of us just all hanging out together in the middle of the ocean, just floating around, just in this city. It's that's a great point that you bring up. And so you guys went and got some grub right off the bat. So let me ask you though, because I'm gonna ask you about a few things, but How did you use your time? Kind of, this is always kind of that weird time, but again, with no experience because you haven't done this before. You had lunch, and how did you use that time before the muster drill, where you had to kind of learn where to go with your lifeboats and stuff like that? That first kind of like scatter into the wind on the ship, finding your way around.
Yeah, so we just kind of wandered around. We saw the grand atrium, the grand hall, found all the coffee shops because we drink coffee, and
And the thing is, well, you don't know this, but on the Wish, they're scattered around. Like on the other ships, they're more centrally like spot. So that's a good point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Okay.
But
so we just kind of did that until 1:30 when we knew the rooms would be ready. And then we went right into our rooms. We saw the guy, pull the little tape back, and everyone started filing in and got in our room and just kind of hung out for a little bit and waited until the muster drill was getting ready to start.
So let me ask you, this is going to be the next thing. What kind of stateroom did you guys have, and how did you find that it worked out for you guys?
We had a veranda, and we loved it. We were thinking about going with an inside or a porthole stateroom, I think, but we're so glad that we went with a veranda because it was way more space, and with that extra balcony, just like in the mornings and heck, even at night, we would look out, kind of like what you do, and just kind of like look out in the ocean, and it's just pitch black, and you can't see anything except the ocean and hearing it. And that was just one of the most relaxing moments of the day for both of us. I woke up several times just to see the sunrise, and it was amazing. So yeah, the veranda all the way.
Yeah, and I will say to folks that are thinking about cruising that have never done this with Disney Cruise Line. Disney Cruise Line is a premium cruise line, so it is more expensive than some other lines like Royal Caribbean and Carnival and stuff like that. But to get on the ship, that's the cost. There's not that big of a difference to go from inside to an ocean view or ocean view to a veranda. It's getting on the ship that is going to be the main cost. So upgrading to a veranda with Disney Cruise Line it's not that much more. And the enjoyment of a veranda, like Justin just mentioned, is pretty amazing, to get out there and see a sunrise or to enjoy, because it's complimentary room service. So you can put the thing out on your doorknob the night before and get some, bagels and some coffee and all that delivered at whatever time you want. It'll be sitting there, it'll knock on your door in the morning and just, sit out on your balcony and watch out as you're just cruising out in the ocean. It's pretty amazing. I mean, that's vacation right there. And then breakfast in this private balcony. I mean, it's just that's what you should be doing. Walt Disney World, we're so busy all the time. We're always like on the go. This is a different pace. This is where, stuff is brought to you instead of you chasing it down. And I think it gives you a chance to do that. So let's talk about some of the, let's go dining on the ship, because you have the 3 main dining rooms on the Wish.
Mm-hmm.
Which one did you guys like the best? So let me just ask you that first of the 3.
We liked Worlds of Marvel the best.
Okay.
So the way that it worked out on our 4-day cruise, we had 1923 first. Then the second day we had Worlds of Marvel, and also the third day for Pirate Night. And then the last day was Arendelle, the frozen dinner. So 1923 was really good, really fancy, good steak, all that. But Worlds of Marvel took the prize, not only because we're big Marvel fans, but just the pure atmosphere of it, the show, the ending, which I won't spoil for anyone who doesn't know. So that was just the overall entertainment factor of that restaurant. That's what tipped it over to be our favorite.
That's cool. And see, that's what I love about the Wish, though, because I get different answers for that question every single time. Like,
oh, really?
Personally, I like 1923 the best. But then a lot of people love Arendelle the best. Now, Arendelle is an aerobic workout with your meal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is high. Did you guys find that super high energy? I mean, because like it's a show, it's a character meet and greet, kind of. Did Olaf? I mean, because he came on your podcast cruise.
No, no, actually, so Olaf wasn't even there. We were kind of speculating why Olaf didn't show up, but just with our table mates. But yeah. Olaf wasn't there for just whatever reason. He was probably left behind on Castaway Key or something.
Maybe he melted.
Yes, or could have melted. Yeah, Arendelle, it was fun. Very chaotic though. I mean,
Totally.
like by the time, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But by the time, all of the like the wait staff came around and started banging on the pots and pans, and we had an aisle seat. So I mean, we were right in the middle of it, and then the parents and kids start twirling their napkins and all, and just it was kind of sensory overload at that point.
Oh, 100%.
It was controlled chaos.
Oh, it's like Chef Mickey's back in the day on steroids. I mean, big time, like Arnold Schwarzenegger steroids. It was crazy. But I mean,
yeah,
little kids were having a blast. Maybe I'm like aged out of that. I don't know, but I mean, it was like the singers were singing on the stage, and I mean, the night we were there for the podcast cruise, because we had like 80 of us. And there, here comes Olaf, trying to take a picture with Olaf. He's at our table, like talking to us, and like, woo-hoo. The guy's going, yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo. I'm like, you're like the waiter's banging on like something. Right. I'm like trying to eat a pot pie. I'm like, I'm so hot. Because I'm waving. I'm like, this song was like, it was like a 12-inch dance mix. I'm like, this is like a 9-minute song. Could somebody cut this song? Like, it's 4 minutes. Come on now. It was wild.
It was great, but on one point, excuse me, like I just turned to my wife and I went, what is happening right now? Like, this is just, it's too much. I'm sorry. Like, I love it, but it's too much. You guys got to cut back on one thing or another.
No, they're trying to give the crowd what they wanted, I think. And I mean, they're trying to give, they're trying to make it a fun experience. It was fun. I mean, I'm not saying it was, it was totally fun. No, it was just, they had to drag people out. Like, I mean, they had to towel people down at the end. It was wild, man. It was true. It was a workout. It's great. So what did you think too about let's jump into some entertainment, like shows. Did you guys go to any of the big theater shows or any kind of the smaller venue shows around the ship?
We went to all 3 of the big shows. We also did bingo and trivia a few times, and saw the diaper dash. Like I made sure that happened.
You can't miss that.
It was so much fun. I had heard about it for 18 months. I had to see it. But yeah, no, we saw all of the shows and they were all great. Aladdin was great. And also Little Mermaid. But I think the one that impressed me the most, at least, was Seize the Adventure. I was not expecting the storyline of that show. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone, just in case people don't want to be spoiled. But it's all about Goofy and his lack of confidence in himself. And there's one point in the show where they bring out Hercules and they sing Go the Distance. And that song just does not get enough love. That movie does not get enough love. So when they pulled that out, I went, this is perfect. Like my jaw dropped. And like all of the shows were just spectacular. Like I was looking around the room, like during Little Mermaid, and at the start of it, like the walls turn blue and they turn like it's the ocean, and then they like make it seem like we're going under the ocean. And with Aladdin, like it was just all spectacularly done, Broadway quality, better than anything I've ever seen in my life. So well done. And yeah, sorry, go on.
No, like I say, I got to echo what you're saying about Go the Distance, though. That song, but I mean, you're right. It isn't used a ton. I love when they throw it in a fireworks show. They seem to throw it in fireworks shows.
They do.
Which is great. But I mean, all the lizards, all the runners in our audience right now, because marathoners, man, that's our theme. They just go the distance, man. Just keep rocking that song. Because my youngest daughter, she's 16 now. She's always like, Dad, every time we're at Disney World and that song comes on at the fireworks, she's like, Dad, you gonna cry because that song came on? I'm like, yep.
Absolutely.
Because that song always
I was tearing up.
That song gets me in the feels, man, every time. She's so mean, man. 16-year-old daughters are mean. So it's like, Dad, you gonna cry? I'm like, I'm at Walt Disney World, my family, and Go the Distance comes on, you know it, dude. There's a tear coming down.
Of course I am.
I mean, they're just cold-hearted. I'm like, you need to go back and you need to take your own bus back to Pop Century tonight. Because you're going me. I'm crying because I'm here with you and you're making fun of me. Whatever.
Right.
So what'd you think though about the minor stuff? Because again, I've always said I enjoy the stuff like you mentioned, like trivia, bingo, diaper dash. Like, did you guys find that maybe that was stuff you weren't expecting to have fun with, or like going down to I forget, what do they call the adult area there? It's that 2-story place.
Oh gosh, not Serenity Bay. That's on Castaway Key.
Yep. I guess, yeah, it's just on the fan.
The Luna Lounge. The Luna
Luna
Lounge.
So
Luna Lounge.
did you guys
Yeah.
enjoy it?
So, yes, we did. We went to bingo. One time we actually won bingo, and then we won trivia.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't win like a huge gigantic jackpot, but I mean, we did win a little bit of money, and we won trivia. So I've got a little medallion right there. So yeah, that's fun. But yeah, those were great little things, and there were a ton of them throughout the day. That's what we weren't expecting. We weren't expecting, there to be constantly stuff going on and constantly stuff that we always wanted to do. We were always missing out on something, which was great, But like at night, after the show, we would go grab a drink at like Star Wars Hyperspace Lounge, or we went to Nightingale's a couple times, or the Bayou, and just listen to live music. And just those little spots were some of my favorite moments of the entire cruise, just because you're sitting down and you're relaxing and you're just listening to some live music, and I'm with my wife, and it's just perfect. Just those little was great.
And that's why couples can have such a great time on a Disney cruise. That's what it's about, right? I mean, just go hang out, play trivia,
right.
Go to a lounge, have a drink, have, the tastings. Like we always sign up for the tastings. I usually try to do one a day, typically maybe it'll be right before dinner, right after dinner. And you learn a little bit about, I mean, they try to teach you, like the history of the spirit or whatever. But I mean, of course, just to have the drinks too. But I mean, they're a lot of fun. You get to socialize with everybody that's in the little lounge with you, which always everybody becomes great friends by the end. I love that stuff. It's so well. Nightingale's is, by the way, because I mean, Hyperspace Lounge gets all the love, I think, on the Wish. Nightingale's is is kind of a hidden gem on that ship, because I know that like Bayou gets a lot of love, and Nightingale's not bad.
Yeah, Nightingale's was a delightful surprise. We went in there and someone was playing, music on the piano, just instrumental Disney music. And yeah, that was a very sort of laid back kind of surprise. It was very chill in there, and just a place where you could just kind of relax and just let the day kind of wash over you, It was great. I loved Nightingales. We love Nightingales.
So for those folks that are not watching us live on the video today, as we record, Justin in his lower third, which has a great reference, well, at least for me, because if you know the podcast for any amount of time, my favorite TV show is The Love Boat from back in the 70s. In his lower third, of course, mine says @BRGuestMike, so you know where to follow me on the socials. Very practical. His lower third says your Yeoman Purser, which I love because that's a great reference to Gopher. From The Love Boat, and that means I can give the double and be Isaac here on the other box. But speaking of Yeoman Purser deals with money, did you guys do any shopping or any merch on Castaway Key or on the ship? Did you guys see anything that you liked as far as that real quick, and then we'll talk Castaway Key?
Yes. Mickey's Main Sale was hit several times, as well as Castaway Key. Castaway Key got a lot of our money. Or at least the spare, merchandise cash that we had built up. And yeah, we picked up a lot of souvenirs, Spirit jerseys. We got some ornaments, a couple of button-up shirts, and, stuff for family members and stuff. So yeah, it got a lot of our money. We went shopping quite a bit.
Because you're rocking an awesome hat. That's what I'm saying. You got
the
hat on right now. It looks good.
My new favorite hat.
Thank you. I'm just saying, it's a sweet hat. Okay, so tell us about your impressions of Castaway Key. Got to go to Disney's private island. Now, well, one of two now experience. So, what'd you guys do there? What'd you think of lunch? What'd you think of the beaches? How was the day?
Castaway Key was paradise. I mean, that's just pure and simple. We were there on a perfect day. It was a little humid, but it was just a great day. We got off the ship, so we were staying in the midship aft of the boat, and we knew that we could get off about 8:30. So we get down there about 8:25, and the gangway is already down, but they've made no general announcement of like, hey, we've been cleared. You can deboard now. So we asked someone, and they were like, yeah, sure. You can get off the boat now. So we were some of the first people off the boat. and we got on the first tram down to Serenity Bay, and we kind of camped out right near where that bar is. I forget the name of the bar, on the left-hand side when you enter, and just sat in the surf. And we were there for a good 3-4 hours, just watching the ocean and, just enjoying the day. We went and got a drink up at the bar, and then it was time for lunch. And lunch, like every meal, was so good on the ship. Even, like at the Festival of Foods, that was some of my favorite food of the ship, of the cruise. But yeah, we went to Cookies too, and they have barbecue, stuff like that. It was all amazing.
Love Cookies too. That is my jam, man. I love it. I know people rave about everything else, but Cookies too for my family. We love Cookies too on the island.
Oh, it was great. And they had some really good burgers. They had some really good potato salad there. We always had our fill of, lunch, but then magically we were always hungry when it came time for dinner too.
Always.
So yeah, so we had lunch, and then we went over to the family beach after that. Just kind of looked around, and then we went shopping, and then we went back to the boat. It was like maybe 3:00 or so, 3:30. So probably a little bit early, but we had been there, like out there for, a good 7 hours at that point. And it was just a perfect day. That place is amazing. And the people were friendly. And like you were talking about it, I think a couple of weeks ago, about how just the logistics of them getting everything off of the ship for that hour, because they said, they dock at like 7:30, and then you can go ahead at 8:30, and just like the sheer amount of work that those cast members put in from 7:30 to 8:30 to get everything off of the ship, loaded onto the island, all the drinks, all the merchandise, all the food, whatever, and then ready for us when we deboard. I was floored, because I was watching some of those, like those big gigantic pallets.
Yeah, I watch it every time from my veranda. That's one of the things I do. As soon as I always watch us come in. Like I love to watch the docking process, and then I watch, as once we are docked, I watch them do that. Like it's amazing seeing the cast first get off the ship, and then all the logistics of all the carts, and the towels are taken off, and all the merch, like you said, and the food, everything just,
it was a sight to behold.
It's
crazy.
Amazing. It's logistics of Disney are unbelievable. It's
correct,
because you don't think that we're carrying that stuff the whole cruise. We're riding this stuff around the whole time, but we are.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's not our thing.
Yeah. So I mean, like Castaway Cay was just the absolute perfect day, and we can't wait to go back and see it again, and also see Lookout Key, Lighthouse Point, whatever it's called, at some point in the future.
Oh, I can't wait too. I know it's a lie. I can't wait. Okay, so let me ask you one other thing about. Did you guys do anything like stuff you signed up for pre-cruise, like spa appointments, tastings? Did you guys do Palo or Remy or anything like that? Any of those kinds?
So with us being first-time cruisers, we didn't really get the opportunity.
It's a challenge, yeah.
Yeah, we did at one point. I did manage to book a Palo dinner for our last night of the cruise, but after talking with my wife and us talking it out, we wanted to experience everything that the ship had to offer before doing the extra stuff. So we canceled the Palo dinner, which I'm glad that we did, because then we wouldn't have got to experience Arendelle.
That's exactly how I would play it. I'm telling you what, that was in my opinion, not that my opinion matters much, but I would say that's exactly how I would play it, because the main dining rooms offer such great food and such great atmosphere and such a great overall experience. Plus you want to be with your dining team too. Like I think the dining team offers something as well. I hate even when like I have a 7-night cruise and I go to Palo, not that the Palo team's great. They're amazing there too. But on a 4-night cruise that goes that quickly, especially for a first-time cruiser, save Palo, save those kind of things for cruise 2, cruise 3. They'll be there. Right. Enjoy the main dining rooms. That's that for one. I mean, I'm not even talking about like sparing the expense, because it is an expense, but it's not a huge expense. but you just don't need it on a first cruise. Like you're not missing anything big. Like you'll like it next time. Don't get me wrong, but you know, like it's one of those things you don't know what you don't know, and so you're good. Like you had a great, yeah, you did it exactly right for a first cruise. I would not follow a Remy on a first cruise personally.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So I mean, like I wanted to do it at first, and then I was like, well, no, well, you know, but then we would be missing out on this other stuff, and so you know, save it for next time, kind of like what you said. And plus, you know, we wouldn't get to see our dining team, which, by the way, dining team, like all the cast members that we ran into, top notch. We were treated like royalty every single like place that we went to, way that we turned, royalty, and it was just by and far one of the most incredible things I've ever seen, like customer service wise.
You just want to bring those folks home with you. I mean,
oh yeah.
Your dining team in your stateroom host or hostess, right? I mean, it's like, dude,
yes,
you bed now. What? I mean, because like every time, like they'll wrap the cords for my girls on all their like devices and stuff with like little wraps. I'm like, come on now, like you should see their bedroom and their cords. Like I trip over them all the time. Like they.
Can I tell you something about our stateroom host?
Absolutely.
Akshay, 7th floor on the Wish. He is a prince among men. He was amazing. Every step of the way, we saw him like 2 or 3 times a day. He would go out of his way to ask us how our day was, what our plans were. On the final day, we were running late for dinner or something, and we run into him, and we just had to ask him, like, okay, how do you make the towel animals? And so he goes, well, I'll show you. So we got a lesson in towel animal making, and it's so simple, but it was so cool to see. And like, sure, we were late for dinner by like 5 minutes, but it was worth it. So yeah, Akshay, and then the dining team, we had Russell, Ramsey, and Javier, all wonderful, all great. And we saw them multiple times during the cruise. Like, you know, we saw them doing breakfast one day, you know, standing behind the counter doing eggs and stuff, and we're like, well, wait, like, what are you guys doing here? Like, you guys
work all the time. They'll be on the island. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It was they were awesome. They were awesome. And I've got another shout out, but I'll do that later because there was another cast member that just really made our trip extra special, but I'll talk about him later.
All right, so let's wrap the cruise though, because I want to talk a little pre-post.
Sure.
Coronado, Pop Century, and some of the places you went there. So about 15 minutes. So any other final thoughts on the cruise? First experience there? Anything that surprised you? Any last thoughts on the Wish?
We will be going back on a Disney cruise at some point. It just impressed us to no end. And yes, there is the cost. There is that sort of scary looking cost when you book it, but when you really break it down by per person per day, which is how I justified it, it's worth it. You know, you're on a floating city, you're in a luxury deluxe Disney room, all the food, all the entertainment, it's right there, and it was worth it for us. It may not be worth it for everyone, but for us, it was absolutely worth it. Would not have it any other way. The Wish was the perfect way to go for our first Disney cruise, and we just could not have been more thrilled with the way that it turned out.
All right.
Pirate Night was a blast.
Oh yeah. I always wear my pirate costume too, so I'm all in on pirate. Did you guys dress up at all? No? Yes?
Well, no, we didn't really dress up. We did get the bandanas.
Okay.
So they did bring the bandanas back. But yeah, Pirate Night was great.
Next time, all in, man. Wig, eye makeup, everything.
I want to.
Next time.
I want to.
Absolutely.
Yes, next time.
Next time. That's the pictures. Okay, so let's talk pre-cruise. You guys went down. You mentioned Coronado. You talked about language there. I love Coronado. That's my like current favorite. So how was Coronado for you guys?
Coronado was amazing. We loved everything about that resort. We've been to Boardwalk, we've stayed at Pop Century, and now Coronado. And Coronado, out of those 3 resorts, is our favorite. We were fortunate enough to get a great deal on the Grand Destino portion, and so we stayed in the tower, close to everything, and The dining, for the most part, was great, with one or two exceptions, but that's not anyone's fault. And it was just the views. The pool was amazing. The rooms were fantastic. It's just a gorgeous hotel, and we want to stay there again at some point. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's what I think. I haven't made a hotel reservation for Marathon weekend yet, and that's probably where that's where I typically stay. That's probably where I usually don't do the tower because I'm not there with my family, so I try to cut back a little bit unless I get a really good deal. I'll have to see. We'll see. See, I'm not talking to myself in my head as I'm recording the podcast.
Right.
Trying to get my grandestino. We'll see. Yeah, still got it.
Oh, it's
already it's mid-September though. I need to probably start moving on these things. Anyway, as we do the show. So pre-trip though, give us like a highlight or two. Is this when you went to the Halloween party before the cruise?
Yes. So we flew in on a Thursday. We took that day, did a pool day, went to Three Bridges that night for dinner, and then Rick's Sports Bar. One was great, one was not so good, just in food quality. But yes, the next day was when we did the not so scary Halloween party, which was our first ever after hours event of any kind. Totally worth it. We had really good weather, and just totally worth it for the ride times alone. We got to ride Haunted Mansion twice, Pirates once, Peter Pan once. My wife went on Space Mountain, all with little to no wait. We rode the People Mover. We did all of that even pretty much before the party, and then we did like Haunted Mansion again after the party started, and we prioritized that and the fireworks and the parade.
Nice.
And that's how we did it.
And you guys had good weather. I mean, because sometimes, man, you get rainy nights at the Halloween party, and that just makes it miserable. But when you have good weather, that party is so much fun. Or good weather.
We had great weather, and it was just an amazing time. We got a great spot for both the fireworks and the parade right in front of the plaza ice cream parlor, like right on Main Street. And it was perfect. And when Max Goof and his dance troupe came out, they were grabbing people from like either side of us, and there were kids there that just had the biggest smiles on their faces. This one family from England, I think, like their boy got pulled into this dance troupe, and this boy just had the biggest smile on his face. This family was just having the greatest time. And I'm like, this is what it's all about. People come to Disney to make these kind of memories, and this family will have a memory that will last a lifetime. Everything was great about the party, with the exception being the food. We didn't really find the food all that good, but hey, that's all right. We still had fun.
Yeah, the party, you got to eat before for all those, especially Halloween party, Christmas party, you got to eat before the parties. Everything closes down.
Yeah.
Like that, I got burned by that more than once. So I always make sure like I go have dinner at Kona, like at 3:30. I do. Like it's the weirdest thing. I'll have dinner at 3:30 and then, candy the rest of the night. Seriously.
Yeah.
If we go to the Halloween party, it's Twix bars the rest of the night, or if it's the Christmas party, cookies, hot chocolate. Rest of the night. Terrible.
Absolutely.
This is how it rolls. So we didn't mention this, but you guys went to Topolino's Terrace for breakfast that morning. So, and you mentioned it was excellent. Again, Scott loves this place. Everybody loves this place. I've been there for dinner, but not breakfast. So you guys liked it too.
It was amazing. Yeah. We got there very early. I had been trying for like 2 years, or since our honeymoon, to get into Topolino's Terrace. It was kind of like sci-fi drive-in for you, but
it doesn't exist at this point for me. I just pretend like that building isn't there. It's just a BBC commissary, and it's just a facade.
Right. Yeah. So we finally got a 7:35 dining reservation for it, and it was awesome because we were one of the first people in there, and we got a lot of character time, and the steak and eggs were amazing. That's what we both got. The steak and eggs were amazing. Maybe even better than the steak at 1923. And that's very hard to top, but it was so good and so filling, and just a really good character breakfast. I can see why it's the most popular dining reservation there right now. Absolutely.
And Scott loves the character interaction there. He loves how the characters have the French outfits on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those were awesome.
He likes that a lot. So now you also you did some Disney Springs, so it's a good time over there, I guess. Just kind of
Yes.
browsing, shopping. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
browsing, shopping. We went to Gideon's, and their cookie of the month was this like pecan chocolate thing. We have something around Kentucky Derby season called Derby pie, and it's a bourbon pecan chocolate pie. And this cookie was basically a Kentucky Derby pie in cookie form, and it was amazing. Flat out.
So I've just started to come around to pecans. Pecans, as my grandma used to call them. She used to make a pecan pie because she's from Kentucky. She's from over in the eastern side, over by West Virginia and Ohio.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The triangle there in Ashland, Kentucky. And
Oh.
she called everything pecan. And when I was a kid, I didn't want anything to do with pecans. But over the last 5 years, I've come around. They're good. They rock. And
Well,
so
then I'll send you some Derby
cookies. I need to check out one of those cookies, I think.
Oh, it was amazing. It was called the Sea Turtle, I think.
Oh,
it was amazing.
It sounds cool with that kind of a name. I like it. Give me a sea turtle.
Right.
Sounds like it could be like a crazy drink or a cookie. Okay,
absolutely.
So running a little short on time, but I want to ask you about a couple of things. So you guys also after the cruise, you stayed at Pop Century. Now, Pop Century is a lot of fun, but you went from Coronado to the Disney Wish to Pop Century. But I mean, you just got to kind of temper your expectations. Go to a value. You've been on a cruise. How was Pop? I mean, of course, it's just kind of like a day or two after a cruise, getting ready to go home. But was it fun? I mean, was it okay?
Pop is great. Pop is great. We've been there twice now. And yes, we did just come off the Wish and we went to Pop. But, for us, we like everything about Pop. The only kind of downside was that when we were there, the food court was under refurbishment. Yep. So we didn't have access to a whole lot of stuff. So we just went right across the bridge for dinner one night and went over into Art of Animation, and no big deal. But Pop is always a blast. Just kind of hang out there at the resort and just kind of relax from our vacation, because we did so much in those 4 days on the ship. We saw so much that we just needed to have a little bit of, wind down time from the vacation. So we didn't do much at Pop, but we just kind of hung out in the room and just kind of decompressed in a way.
Vacation for your vacation. But you did have lunch at Boathouse. So how was that?
Yes, we did.
Now, let me ask you, my favorite thing on the menu there, I don't know if you had it because you didn't tell me, but I always get the filet sliders. That's my go-to there. What'd you guys have?
I almost got that. My wife, I believe she got the lobster roll, and I got the shrimp and grits. Shrimp and grits.
Both good calls.
And yes, but I made a mistake because I ordered on the side a side of potatoes, and thinking that they would just bring me a little bowl of potatoes, and they bring me out basically like a dinner plate full of potatoes. So get a dinner plate full of potatoes, then the shrimp and grits. It was a very delicious mistake. It was great. Boathouse was wonderful.
Yeah, why couldn't that happen right now? Like, come on, right here in St. Charles, Missouri, Boathouse, DoorDash, bam.
Oh,
right
yeah.
To the BGP studio. Come on. They always say wishes come true if you just wish hard enough. I don't think that wishes happen tonight. Justin, something's wrong here. So, I mean, what a great trip, though. I mean, you got Coronado, you got Pop Century, you got a very first Disney cruise. You had an amazing serving team, great room steward. You got to make so many memories. First-time experiences are so very special, especially when it comes to Disney destinations. And when you're with the people you love, I mean, that makes it even better. So we do have to wrap, but as we do, give us like one more story or just something maybe that you learned that you'd like to share with the audience, because you have such a cool perspective. And I love, you're so optimistic too about things. You're so positive. And that's what our show is really about. And I love it. And I think that's what's really going to give everybody kind of the kick this week, get their week started the right way. And that's what I always want this show to be about. But just, if you have another like fun story from the trip or just something practical to help people, plan a great, maybe first time cruise or something like that.
So I do have another cast member interaction. And this gentleman was named Rahim. He was a photographer. We met him on Castaway Cay. He talked to us for about 25 minutes. And then we saw him on the ship taking pictures. We were actually in line to take pictures at the Grand Hall stage. And these pictures were, on the steps of the Grand Hall. These pictures were so great and they came out so wonderful that I actually tried to tip him afterward. I went to guest services, and that's where I learned. And this is also kind of a little I guess, a little tidbit that you can't really tip photographers like that. So that's where the guest survey at the end of the cruise comes in so crucial. They said to write them a good note in that guest survey. And if you do that, they have the potential to get a day off. And in that business where you're working 7 days a week for, I think, what did someone say, 6 months at a time, that is huge and it's worth more than money. So if you really have a good experience, do that guest survey at the end, write some glowing reviews, and that's the best way that you could repay them. It's even better than a cash compliment, I would think.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Those guest surveys, and they will, really ask you, especially your serving team at the end of the cruise, is there anything else I can do for you? Please make sure that you do fill out that guest survey at the end of your cruise. They do that because that is how they are ultimately judged. And that is super important to them. And I know that at the end of your cruise, you're very busy. You're trying to, pack your bags and think about what's next. Right. But taking that 5 to 10 minutes at the end of every cruise that you get to go on, think about how fortunate we are to get to sail on a ship like the Disney Wish or the Disney Fantasy or, whatever ship, the Wonder, the Magic, whatever you're on. I know life moves really quickly, and I don't mean to be preachy, but take that 5 or 10 minutes because it does mean a lot to those folks, and they do work their rear ends off so that we have an amazing experience. It is something that 5 to 10 minutes, the return on that for those folks is so worth it. Justin, I'm glad you brought that up because that's gold. That's gold stuff right there. I'm glad you really brought that up.
Absolutely. And I mean, like every single cast member was just so great. So just please do that guest survey. It really does make a world of difference to them.
All right, Justin, we got to wrap, but what a way to start the week. That's why I love having our shows. Mondays are my favorite because we get to spread a little bit of magic, and you just dropped it on everybody today. First cruise, Coronado Springs, Pop Century, and a Gideon's cookie with some pecans, which I will be dreaming about tonight well after I edit this podcast. So killing me, brother. Killing me.
Amazing.
And a Yeoman Purser lower third. I mean, you'd like triple threat here. So, Justin, thanks for coming on the show. You made the week awesome already, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure.
All right. Don't forget our podcast always brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. We'd love to help you plan your next Disney adventure, whether it's on the next Disney Cruise Line ship that you'd like to sail. I used to say 4 of them, but there's a lot of them right now. So we can get you on the Destiny, the Wish, the Fantasy, the Dream, the Magic, the Wonder. Pick your ship. We'll get you on it. So you want to do that? Let's do that today. And we'll get you a nice onboard credit that spends just like cash. So come on over to the magicforless.com today. Also Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and Adventures by Disney. But I didn't want to leave those out too. Also, please use our Amazon affiliate link. It's beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. You guys make this show possible. So thank you again to our Patreon supporters. You can support us as well. Just $5 a month. And when you do that, you get a bonus show every week. It's called Mike in the Midwest. Coming over this week, patreon.com/beourguestpodcast. Give me a follow on the social media at beourguestmike, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. And join us in the clubhouse. That's where the conversation goes 24/7, 365. All of our listeners, no ads, no nonsense. beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse. We'll check you out there. And of course, Sunday night, we'll have the live call-in show. You can be a part of the show. Just give us a holler and we'll talk Disney. It's you, me, and Scotty G. Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. So we'll see you there. All right. Till we get back together again on Wednesday to answer your listener questions. For Justin down in Louisville, I'm Mike here in Missouri. You guys have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Boom. That's a good one.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure to be here.
I appreciate it, bud. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's busy, and I'll have this up and ready to go Sunday night.
Perfect. We appreciate it, and we will be listening.
All right. If you ever need anything, you got my email. You just give me a yell.
Yes, sir. I absolutely will.
I appreciate you so much, Justin. You take care.
Take care. All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.